Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Govardhan Hill, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Govardhan Hill, everybody. It seems like we haven't seen people for ages. What day is it today?
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. Man, when you miss a Monday and a Tuesday, it's like...
What to speak of when you go to the other side of the world, right?
And then we get on a plane and fly 9,000 miles away. And here we are in Govardhan Hill. This is like where my spiritual life began. We actually went for a morning walk today. We did a half a Prikram, which is about 3.5 hours. Very, very nice. Very, very nice.
And we bathed in Radhakund.
Oh, and then we had a... Wait, first of all, we just want to talk about our morning.
This is why we look rough, Kaustubha.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I was
Like,
thinking
what's
that
up? I thought you'd be ecstatic. We're like...
Well, we tuned in here, we connected, and you guys are looking like, oh. I'm like, I thought you were going to be like all bright. And like, you know.
We're
what's
jet
going on?
lagged. We just got here.
Okay, it's jet lag.
I'm still jet lagged. I fell asleep in the toilet.
In
I
it?
kid you not. I know. No, like on the
bathroom.
toilet, looking at my phone, I fell asleep. I kid you not.
Okay.
Now, okay.
What happened this morning?
That was too much info. You know what?
Yeah.
I had some great food I've never eaten before, which is, I'll tell you this, and Krishna Drew, take note. I was never a kachori fan.
Oh.
And then I went to the Manor and they made these incredible kachoris. And I was like, man, I like kachoris. And today,
Got a kachori?
what's was it? Oh, Vikram, we got kachoris in Jatipur that were out of this world. Out of this world. Then we had a
Can
good
you describe
lassi.
a chikori?
A chikori, kachori, a chikori.
Go ahead.
Kachori is like
kachori. It's like a deep
I don't know,
fry.
sort of like a, fried.
It's got a filling. It's like a pastry, but it's like deep fried in a sense, you could say. But it's savory.
Yeah.
And it's got,
It's
usually
savory.
it's like dal inside, some kind of dal mixture, but spiced really nice.
This one had like potatoes and cauliflower, but
Maybe
it was more
potatoes
like
in there, yeah.
sitting in a puri. You know what I mean? It was more like a
Yeah.
puri and it was quite wonderful. And then we had these potato jalebis that I've never had before. Have you heard these?
Potato jalebi.
Potato jalebis?
They made it with like potato flour?
I don't know.
I think so.
I didn't
was
know. I
wonderful.
don't believe I've ever had a potato jalebi.
And then we went to Radhakund and saw our good friend Mo. Oh, we sat with Kundaleshwar Mahadev.
Okay.
And asked to. We have to got to
You
shed
have to
the ego
explain
if
what
you
that
want to get into
means.
the dump.
You gotta
Okay, this is a deity that allows
Lord
entrance
Shiva.
into Radhakund of Lord Shiva, and so we all bathed Kundaleshwar Mahadev, and we sat there, and then we went for a
Means
walk.
he's
And
the
then
controller of the lake, right? The Kundalate.
the controller of the Kund, yes, and the guard. He's like the bouncer.
The guardian, yeah.
You can't. You got to go through the bouncer. You got to see the bouncers have to. You got to be on the list before you get into the club. That's sort
Did
of
he
what
let
it
you in?
is. I feel like he let us in. I feel like he let us in.
And then you saw Mohan Panda at Radhakund?
Yeah, now Mohan Panda, a panda, traditionally is, I think the word comes from pundit, which are like sort of scholars of, Vedic rituals and Vedic rites. And you go to holy places, there are these pandas, and they do some rituals and pujas and worship for you.
Yeah,
and
they do different sacred rites for you, right? They're like priests that you can come to that place and they'll do some ritual for you.
Yeah, matter of fact, and you get like from what I understand, you get like a family punda. Like if you go to Haridwar, there are these pandas that you go to from your family, and they keep records of your family coming there for hundreds of years. I kid you not. So anyway, Donaldar Marjorie has always been taking me to Mohan Panda since Mohan Panda was a little boy. He used to do it for us, like 10. Now he's, he has kids himself, and he's our panda. And he comes and he sits us down, he does our rituals, and he throws water and tilak, puts tilak on us, and chants these beautiful mantras. It's quite a ritual, wasn't it, Rich? Yeah, it's quite. Rich seemed highly impressed. He's the guy to impress on this trip. He's like, because he's sort of like right out of Manhattan. His only real connection with Bhakti is the podcast, for the most part. Yeah. So if you impress Rich, then we're doing good. Oh yeah, and then I tell you, we gotta get the Persian. These Iranian devotees are here. I don't know if we're allowed to even say that.
Yeah, better. Yeah, you gotta be careful.
I forget I just said that. Forget that. I know nothing.
It's a sad reality that we have to be careful.
It's a sad reality, but we had an incredible meal. I can't even say that. Can I say that?
That you can say.
We had an incredible meal. That's all I'm saying. But
I think that's okay to say. It's not okay to say where they're from.
Yes.
All right. So it's been an exciting day. You bathed in the holiest place in the entire universe.
Yes. And we walked halfway around Govardhan Hill.
What is your feeling? Here's a question. Raghunath, what do you feel as you're walking around that hill?
Well, I think usually it's generally quite ecstatic. And I think for me, it's been a culmination of 2020 and 2021 emotions sort of poured out of me sort of since I landed in India, which is not like me usually. Usually I'm just I get really, I guess it's another form of spiritual emotion, a cathartic emotion. Usually I'm in like this over the top type of bliss entertainer mode.
Yeah, I thought you'd be in the party mode when you came in this morning, but I know.
Kaustubha got on the show earlier. I was like, yeah. Maharaj too. He's like, and then Raghunath's going to lead a Braj Bhakti Kirtan. I was like, I don't. I'm just like, usually I am in total entertainer mode. I like that mode. And I'm just sort of like feeling a lot of feelings, if you want the honest truth.
No, that's good. My personal experience is, we, in our lineage, in Bhakti-yogis, they accept this hill that you're living by the side of right now, Govardhan Hill. They accept it as non-different from Krishna, right? Like it is a manifestation of Krishna. It's a manifestation of God right there in the form of that hill. But, God manifests in many different ways, and he expresses different moods in those different ways, He manifests as Nrsingadev, and that's like his kind of this divine protective anger, he manifests in so many different ways. But my personal experience or my personal impression of Govardhan is it's Krishna. It's Krishna manifesting in a really merciful way. It's like I find there have been times when I've stayed at Govardhan Hill where I've been in very difficult times in my life, and I found that when you walk around that hill, it just grants hope. It's like hope is just like pouring out of that hill. That's my experience.
I've always had sort of magical experiences, and even with all my sort of melancholiness, it's still very, very deeply uplifting. Yeah. And my famous story of Govardhan is the first time I ever went, and it was one of those, because it's happening now, right? Too, is these prikrams. So if you're unfamiliar, it's a long and short mountain. I told the story on Sunday. And people walk around it, and it takes about 6 to 8 hours to walk around the whole hill.
You can do it in 4
And
if you're moving.
4, I find that hard to believe.
No, I've
You
done
got to
it.
be like
That was my pace.
jogging.
No, when you're alone and
You
you're
can
going.
do the hill in 4 hours.
Yeah, that was my general time I used to do it in. But that
I'm
was
gonna
going for it.
I'm going to time you.
It's not a competition. It's fine. 6 hours, let's say.
But I said the first time I went, it was really tough because I was a brand new devotee and I wanted to do everything right. And my story is like I barely knew how to tie a robe on, and or wear the Indian underwear, and I wanted to do the right thing. So I asked to carry Maharaj's book bag, and he had like giant books in the bag, and he had the big Swami staff that Swamis carry. So I'm carrying a staff, I'm carrying his book bag, I'm carrying my book bag. I don't know why I'm carrying a book bag in the first place. I'm doubled over with book bags. I've never walked. I've lived in New York City. I've never walked barefoot practically my entire life, and now I'm like walking barefoot. And part of me is like feeling the bliss. This is, by the way, this is 1988. Part of me is feeling the bliss of I did it. I quit my life. I walked away from everything I knew as my identity. I was a singer of a band and in this whole music scene, and all my friends and my family. And I just said, my father had just died. I said, you know what? My old life is over. I want a new life. And I got on a one-way ticket to India, and I ended up here on the third day. It was like a late night prikram. They have these during holy times. The prikram, the walk around, you do it all night long. I mean, when we got in last night, people were still walking. When I woke up, they're still walking. So it goes through the night. It's usually an auspicious moon or something. And so we did one of these late night, and I felt the joy of just like letting go of my like karmic baggage that I've been carrying around and my struggles in my mind. That first time.
Okay.
And then slowly, because I'm walking and I'm carrying all these things, I'm like stubbing my toe. I'm like, I stepped in a mud puddle. I'm thinking did I cut my foot? Is it infected? Am I going to get elephantitis?
Yeah, elephantitis.
Or whatever. And I'm worried about diseases. I'm cold. I start moving to there's probably like 30 people. I'm moving way to the back. I can't keep pace with everybody. If you've never walked barefoot, all of a sudden your feet start to ache. And I mean, we were walking and walking and walking. I was like, okay, this hill's got to be over in a few minutes. And I see the Swami Maharaj is way up ahead, and he's waiting for everybody, and everybody's catching up to him. And I finally get there. I was like, oh, I guess this must be it. This must be the end. And then he just goes, okay, we're about a half hour from the halfway point. And I was like, once he said we were a half hour from the halfway point, I had a mental break. I thought I was going to lose my mind. I was just bitter, and pain started shooting up my legs and in my back. I'm carrying this giant yoga.
Everybody else is in total ecstasy.
Everyone's cooking. Even the lady with the stroller is passing me. My dhoti's falling off. It was miserable. And you know what? It was miserable and it was wonderful. The wonderful parts of it were just that. I'm in another world doing with people who are endeavoring to better their life, upgrade their life, refine their consciousness. Just knowing that is a powerful thing. I want to surround myself, and to this day, I want to surround myself with people who really want to refine the inner engineering of the consciousness. It's like it's deeply joyful. What I did walk away at, besides being miserable when I finished and bitter and angry, was, oh wow, I'm angry and bitter and miserable. Just see how foolish I am. I know I'm not the body. At least that's what I philosophically understand. I know I'm not the mind. Yet look at my mind. Here I was in complete bliss, and now I'm sad due to my feet and back hurting. And I realized how connected, how deeply woven my identity is with my mind. And that was, believe it or not, that for me was like the dawn of, and it's still dawn, of liberation. I feel like this is assisting me to my liberation. Someone's shining light on the illusion that I've been living in. Right. Like I thought my happiness was just from happiness. I thought my sadness was just, no, it's all mentally concocted. And that was sort of a beautiful thing to realize, because I was actually happy with what I was doing, but I was just living on a mental platform.
Well, you know, Raghu,
Go over downhill.
I'm thinking that, you know, that was 34 years ago that you first went there. Now you're 34 years older. 34 years have passed and you're back in the same place. Interesting, right?
It's very interesting, man.
And your life is in different circumstances. And
Completely different circumstances.
you know, I'd imagine back then you had hopes and aspirations of where your life would go, all right?
Yeah.
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 No, I'm this from my perspective. This is a bright thing. I was gonna say, you know, like if then you could like imagine if you could either way, you know, like then you could fast forward and see where you are now, or if now you could go back and see exactly where you were at then, you know.
Yeah. Never thought I'd end up here. Like, and this wasn't this, but it was.
The way that I look at it is like, you know, in one sense, that was the birth of your following the path of bhakti, you know? A deeper commitment set in and a deeper realization of what it meant and its culture and you know, connecting with people that were deeply, you know, it was, you could point to different places in your life, but that was, you know, very important and in a sense, the birth of it. And now it's 34 years later. And, you know, do you have the realizations that you hoped you would have at this point in your life back then? Do you know, have you walked the path that you wanted to walk? And, you know, are you making the progress on it? And I would say this, I'd say that yes. I would say, like, in other words, if you could go back 34 years and say, okay, where's Raghunath going to be 34 years from now? I'm saying you're doing really good. Even the fact that you're just back there is a really important thing. But you know, I look at, if you take between that time and now, right? And you look at all the service you've done, you look at all the hours and all the effort that you've put in and all the study that you've done, all the meditation that you've done, all the service, all the reaching out that you've done and trying to share this with people, all the people whose lives you've touched, you know. So even though you're there right now and you're a bit in this melancholy and for different reasons, you know, I think that melancholy is like, you know, we were talking about this, I think, you know, there's a kind of a sweetness in the bhakti melancholy, right? Because even the highest expression of devotion understood in our lineage is that feeling of separation from God. You know, when it's a paradox, right? But the deeper you feel the feeling that, you know, God, where are you? Why, you know, why have I turned from you? The deeper you're in that, actually, the deeper you're in connection with God. So the more you feel separation, the more you feel union. And I think your melancholy is just a manifestation of, you know, your advancement. And I think you know your life is moving in a great trajectory here, guy.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Prabhu, for saying that. I did feel a lot of that sort of lamentation. Like you read these Gaudiya Vaishnava songs that are like sad and longing and sort of lamenting over their life and their choices, or you know. For a fraction of flickering happiness, I've served useless and miserly men. So you hear these again and again, and you have the deep like sadness in the heart. And I was sort of like resonating with a lot of that, but actually, you know, I think that's how we're supposed to feel. I think that's how we're supposed to feel in this path. We should never feel like now I'm enlightened, and now I'm very, very God conscious. In infant stages, I thought I'd be much more God conscious when I was like, 6 months in. You ever read those yoga books? There's these yoga books that are like, if you just chant this mantra for something like 3 years, you'll be attain this. They say things like that. I thought I might be much more like spiritual, like quicker than I.
Well, you know, I think you connected yourself at that point, and you've stayed connected. And it's just, it's the growth of devotion in you is very real. And, you know, how that manifests externally and even in our consciousness, you know, in other words, and we've talked about this before too, you know, it's like some seeds, you know, sit under the ground and never fructify, right? And some seeds sprout out of the ground real quick, but they kind of shoot up. They're like a creeper that's kind of like weak and, you know, like thin and vulnerable and may not actually make it, you know? like even in Vrindavan, right, where when they plant trees, they have to put like a whole cage around the thing, right? Like,
I know, and they still never quite grow.
yeah,
Some
because like
guy just
buffalo will
goat
come over
farmer
and
comes
eat
by
it or
and just
something.
chops it. Yeah.
Yeah. But some things, they're underneath the ground, but there's a lot of growth going on even underneath the ground. So even though it's not apparent, there's something very strong growing there. When it starts to come out of the ground, it's coming out in a really solid way, I
Sure.
suppose. And I think your devotion is like that. I think for a lot of our devotees, it's like that. We're living in a world that's really diametrically opposed to our spiritual development.
Yeah.
The world of
It's like
distraction is like super
specifically
bizarre,
designed to
crazy.
distract us. I mean, that's what Durga, that's what Maya is. Maya is, I'm here to fulfill all your material desires, to make you realize the material world is not your real home. I want to put on this fantasy show for you, and you could play out a fake role. It's the ultimate costume party. And the material world is specifically designed as an illusion for us to play a role, and to walk around with some persona, some ego. And that's why a lot of our work in Bhakti is, we talk about the ego a lot. We talk about the false ego. We talk about being pretentious and being genuine, being sincere, because we've got to get through those layers. And I think what happens on this path is we tend to think we are much more advanced than we are. And it's when we actually get some glimpse, we realize, oh my God, I'm at the bottom of this mountain. I thought it was much higher. It's like, ever go to the Grand Canyon, Kaustubha?
I haven't.
If you've ever climbed out of the Grand Canyon, you get to this point where you see the top of the canyon, you're like, oh my God. And it's hard. You're doing all switchbacks back. And then you finally get to that ledge and you realize, oh no, there's a whole nother massive wall I have to climb, because it cuts in and then goes up again, but you can't see the top from the bottom.
Gotcha.
And when you get to the top of that one, it cuts in again, and you just never realize how far you are from that top, and it's exhausting. And I think spiritual life is like that. We don't realize how much Maya we are actually in. But I will say, in Bhakti, I feel a different special, whatever you call it, double coupon day, or some special mercy you get, that it's not just our being pure. It's just, we get some special hand reaching down to us in Bhakti, in the same way a child doesn't have to prepare their own meals. They just have to just cry. The child cries and the mother comes with the meal, or the father comes with the meal. And in Bhakti, it's more of a movement of crying, where we're crying out with our love, and we get special reciprocation from God and Guru. And when I say Guru, just to refine the word Guru, generally we think it's a solitary person in our life, and it can be, but it can also be all the people God has sent to us to give us, to help us on a path, to give us some type of instruction, to help us with refining our trajectory, and helping us with our choices, and giving us good company. And as soon as we desire it, it's getting sent towards us. It's quite beautiful and magical.
All right. Well, I'm happy you're there. I'm happy Mara's there. It's great to see Mara over there.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here.
Mara's flying high. We are a little jet lagged.
Yeah.
We're a little wiped out.
This is Mara's first time at Govardhan, right?
No, I've been here before. I've done Prikram with you, Prabhu.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah. So for some reason, I was thinking it was your first.
You remember I shared all these intimate things with you? We had that deep conversation? Nope,
Yeah.
don't remember.
Of course, I remember.
That time at Govardhan.
Anyway, I'm happy for you guys.
Yeah. And Vicky from Cyprus is here, and she's completely lost her material mind.
Well, she's going through so much right now, huh?
Vicky from Cyprus? Oh, yeah, that's right. Her
Yeah.
family's in Ukraine.
I mean,
right now.
not just in Ukraine, but in that city that's really being hit hard. So we're praying for your family.
And she hasn't reached them in 1 week, right?
Because
She
there's
hasn't
no
reached them in 1 week.
communication. No, everything's shut down. What is it? How do you pronounce that city? Starts with an M.
Marupo.
Merupo.
Meropo.
We were talking about, I met this nice lady today who grew up in communist Russia. She's a devotee. And I was saying, like, how can you guys do that? And we're talking about people practicing bhakti in countries where it's illegal to practice. And the lady interrupted and she said, actually, we did it in the 80s. and we would all go to the forest to have kirtan. So we couldn't do public kirtan. They'd arrest us, kidnap it, take everything that we had. We'd go to the kirtan, and there was something in, she didn't say it like this, but she said something like, there's something in that desperation that gave us like so much ecstasy.
I can imagine. And
Mara was reflecting with me. It's like, man, we have it so easy. And we're like, oh, I can't chant today, or I don't want to. We're just pathetic. It's just pathetic. It's like we have all the freedom in the world, and we might criticize, well, we don't have freedom, and we got a lot of freedom. You're right. There is a 1% that control you, and you're owned, etc. Yes, but the police aren't going to come knocking on your doors for having a kirtan right now, and still we're not doing it. Still, we're not. I'm not on my A game.
Got to get on the A game.
Got to get on the A game, Prabhu.
All right. Well, how do we get on the A game, Raghu?
We hear and chant. We hear and chant.
The Bhagavatam. Shall we do it?
Ready?
Yeah, any
announcements?
Yes, we do have a bunch of announcements, actually. Trevor Vaughn has an asana class for Patreon members at 8 a.m. There's Bhakti recovery group meetings at 1 and 9:30 p.m. today. Tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m., Alexandra Moga is starting a daily pranayama practice for Patreon members if they'd like to join. And there's also a special workshop tomorrow evening with Lauren Baptiste on Ayurveda. It's kapha balancing for spring. And that's at 7 p.m. tomorrow night for Patreon.
Okay. And why don't we one more time let people know how, if they would like to help the devotee bhakti communities in Ukraine, how they can do that. And if you would like, this channel is working now. Funds are being channeled into the devotees there. They're serving food. They're doing. I'm going to try to do a little follow up and find out more of what's happening there. But if you would like to help the devotees who are serving under such extremely difficult circumstances, you can use this following PayPal account: rajamohan1008@gmail.com. That's VRAJAMOHAN1008@gmail.com. You can find that on our Wisdom of the Sages Instagram page or the Wisdom of the Sages Facebook pages as well. And thank you to everybody I've been hearing so many people have been trying to help. And so,
thank you so much.
Okay. You ready?
A lot of pain in this world, isn't there?
There is.
We romanticize about material existence so much. It's romanticized in movies. Good morning, everybody. I'm your morning downer.
All right. We ready to get in? Let's get into the box. This is actually, Raghunath, this is a, pull yourself together there, Raghunath. What's going on? Mara, what's going on?
Up with this guy. More bad news.
Dhruva was having some bad news, but we're right at the point in the Bhagavatam where we get a description of the form of Lord Vishnu. It happens all the time in Bhagavatam, but this is a really nice description from Narada. So you ready? Let's go.
Yeah. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. Before we started the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Before we start,
by regular attendance.
By regular attendance in class in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances to them.
Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 8, Text 45.
All right.
You sounded like a witch today. Reading from.
So. He's losing it.
I sound like a witch listening to cackle.
Yeah, who's cackling
All right.
over here? Now,
Where are we?
so now Dhruva was frustrated, upset, heartbroken, angry at the world, and he was told by his mother, "Hey, you should go out to the forest and worship Lord Vishnu." And on the way, he runs into Narada, and Narada questions him, gives him some jnana, some perspective. Hey, this isn't so important. Just let it go. He can't accept it. He says frankly, I can't accept that. I want a kingdom greater than my father's. Narada says, okay, if you want to do that, you go into this, do yoga that's focused on Lord Vishnu, and he can grant your desires. Narada knows that that's not the highest thing, and that's not what's going to give him deep satisfaction, right? But he knows that it'll get him going in the right direction. And so he's told him how you have to go there. Go. Where does it got to go? Got to go to Vrindavan, right? Got to go to Vraj.
Madhuvan.
Madhuvan in particular, and you got to go to that holy place. He instructs him. The Yamuna River's there. You bathe in that river 3 times a day. You do breathing exercises. You learn how to sit very still. He's instructing him in Ashtanga yoga, but he's saying, but you do all of these external activities: the breathing, the bathing, the asana practice, and so on. It's all being done so that you can focus your mind, right?
By the way, when you get to those holy places, like, we drove in from Delhi. Delhi is like a massive city, and then sort of they get more out of the city and more countryside. But then all of a sudden you see your first sadhu. You guys notice that, Rich? Did you notice that when you see your first sadhu, like walking, and you're like, oh, a sadhu? Then you start going into the holy place, and you're like, it's just seeing sadhus and holy people everywhere and temples everywhere, and it just sort of changes your like everybody's thinking like this. That's a power. That's a power. There's a potency of holy people coming together in a place.
Just to see someone and look in their eyes of someone that said, you know what, the illusory pleasures of this world, I get it. It's not real, and I'm going to pursue something else. I want to go deeper. I want to go within. Just to just see someone that's made that conclusion in life, and decide to get serious about it. That itself is purifying, right? Just seeing a person like that, it does something to the heart.
It's also cool, Kaustubha, we were doing Prikram this morning, and it's early. It's still, the sun hasn't even risen yet. And they're like these 4 men, like businessmen. I was going to say old men, but they're probably younger than me, Seth. But they're just singing together. These 4 guys, like in collared shirts and pants, and they're just singing and chanting, walking around Govardhan Hill. And I'm thinking, what nice guys. This is what they're doing on their day off. They're just like, or on a Wednesday, on a work day. And you see these people, and you see teenagers. And it's so funny. Teenage boys in India hold hands, and they're straight boys, most likely. They just hold hands and they embrace and they walk around Govardhan Hill. And it's a day trip. They come in from Delhi or from Gurugram or these suburbs of Delhi, and they just come, and this is sort of like this is fun. Where do you find teenagers doing stuff like this?
I tell you, I was just reading this book right here this morning.
What you reading?
It's called Hindu
Light
Mysticism.
On Yoga.
No, Hindu
Light
Mysticism.
On Yoga.
Hindu Mysticism.
Ooh, I like that.
You like that title? It's written by S.N. Dasgupta. This guy's, he's a really. It was published in 1927. Some scholar. I don't know too much about him. Professor S.N. Dasgupta, Presidency College, Calcutta. There he is, right there.
Tell me. Is he a mystic, or he's talking about mystics?
He's a scholar, and he writes so well. He really writes so well, and he has a way of taking all, the whole yoga philosophies and all that. It's so broad, and he has a way of just like compressing it really poetically, really well. And I was reading, he's writing about like Ashtanga yoga, which is similar to what Dhruva's practicing here, right? Like just like these sadhus, they wander off, right? They go off to a holy place. So this is, you want me to read something? He wrote it so well. I was just thinking, wow, this guy's good. You ready?
Yeah.
He says, with the Indian sages this doctrine of the transcendent self was not merely a matter of speculative philosophy. For philosophy came to them much later than the actual practice of liberation, of this true self from bondage, of the association with all our so-called physical states, ideas, feelings, emotions, images, and concepts. It is very difficult. This is where I should have started right here. It is very difficult for a Western mind of today. I think he must have been speaking to some Western people. I don't know, right? But he's saying it is very difficult for a Western mind of today. I think these were lectures that he gave at some kind of assembly.
Well, probably in all these, the British.
Yeah, maybe to the British, or it's probably somewhere in this book. I think these are like transcriptions of a talk that he gave in some kind of Western assembly. He says, it is very difficult for a Western mind of today to understand or appreciate the minds of the Indian seers. And he's talking especially about the Ashtanga yogis, right? Like those yogis out in the forest. He says, they felt a call from within. They felt a call from within the deep caverns of their selves, a call which must have started from a foretaste of their own true essence, which made all earthly pleasures or hopes of heavenly pleasures absolutely distasteful to them. They could feel satisfied only if they could attain this true freedom, their true self. To appreciate their experience at all, one must, in imagination, take a long jump backwards of about 25 centuries across the waters of the Atlantic and the Indian Oceans, and picture to oneself the valley of the lofty snow-capped peak of the Himalayas, looking high up to the infinite of the heavens, and far beyond the peaceful groves and cottages where the innocence and forbearance of man had endeared him to the trees and beasts alike, where no other sound disturbed the serene forest dwellers than the breezy rustling of the lofty sal trees and the grovy palms. You know what it's like when you go into those little sadhu cottages and all that, He says, he says the necessities of men who dwelt there were few. They often wore clothes made from birch bark, and ate fruits and vegetables that grew wild in the hermitage, and rice which grew without much trouble of cultivation. The cows of the hermitage supplied them with milk and butter. They did not take any animal life for food. The birds ate from their hands. The soft-eyed gazelles roamed about their huts, made of straw or leaves or trees, and the peacocks danced in the shady groves of their forest walks. The clear, transparent waters of the holy river Ganges and other rivers watered their hermitages, and the cool breezes delightfully refreshed their bodies and minds when the wearisome tropical heat had relaxed their nerves and muscles into inaction. These men had no riches, and they did not seek them. Their natural needs were few, and it never occurred to them that these could be augmented or multiplied. They thought rather that what needs they had were in themselves too numerous and could be indefinitely curtailed.
It's flipping the entire script, the entire material script, the entire American dream. It's flipping it right on its back.
Yeah. He says, for men who live in a world of skyscrapers, motor cars, and comforts of all sorts, with its varied scientific, political, and social ambitions, with its desire for wealth and its highly developed system of trade and commerce, it is inevitably difficult to appreciate or rightly understand the minds of those who felt disinclined to all worldly things and were uneasy until they could touch their own innermost self. Theirs, however, was no ordinary pessimism, as it is too often supposed by unsympathetic and shallow-minded scholars who lack the imagination and the will to understand the Indian thought and culture of the past. They felt dissatisfied with the world not because the world had no pleasures or joys to offer, but because their desire for attaining their highest good, their true selves, was so great that it could tolerate no compromise with any other desire. The sole ambition of these yogins, or the seers who practiced the yoga discipline, was to become absolutely free from all kinds of bonds and from all kinds of extraneous determination.
Wow. That's beautiful.
It is beautiful, right? I think he's a great writer, a great speaker, and but yeah, just to see someone that's made that decision in their life, right? Because there, it's like it's the fact that, when that person's walking around, he's got the beard and he's living that rough life, and he's, that, he probably worked somewhere and had a family at some point and, was, living in Calcutta or Delhi or whatever. And then he said, now I just want to give my life to God. And now they're just wandering around practically homeless, but just like getting, in the heart, they're relishing something there's some pleasure that they're getting. That's more.
There's a tendency for us, I think, I can speak for myself. There was a tendency for me when I first saw Krishna devotees in America to think like, oh, I guess these guys must. I think this was, even as a child, when I saw a priest or a nun, instead of being like, oh, a holy person, I'd be like, oh, what a loser. I think that's what I would think. I would think this loser couldn't do anything with their life, so they gave up. Who would give up their life to be boring? To me, to be a nun, in my brain, I was like, that's the most boring job ever. Like, you don't get to have any fun. And even when I saw a person practicing bhakti or like a monk, I would think, they must have been losers and therefore they had nothing else to do. But the fact is, to give up material pleasure, it takes deep, deep intelligence, because you have to get to this point where you realize there's nothing of this world that can satisfy my heart. And that's a deep realization. Most people are just running and running and running towards dead ends.
Right.
And sometimes they're, very long, winding, colorful dead ends that still lead you like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, it's amazing that India has this like many, many, many centuries old tradition of people just kind of like saying, okay, I get it. Right? Like there's a much deep, nobody's saying that there's no happiness in material life, that no happiness can be derived from it, but there's something much deeper. There's a much deeper type of happiness in life that's not flickering, that's steady, that's true, that's not based on illusion, that you can reach if you dedicate yourself to it. And I'm going to dedicate myself to it. I'm going to go for it,
Yeah, it's and of course it's there in all traditions of the world, but you see it so much in India.
Sure.
People just getting a deep, loud, I forget what your author called it, but like an inner voice that sometimes hits people, not just like in a midlife crisis, although then too, and not just in old age, although like that old age, like what have I done with my life? Sometimes even in their youth, just like, nope, not interested. It's very, very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I know. Just say, we had lunch at the ashram, the Govardhan ashram this morning, breakfast we had there. Love it. You know what? And the joy of it for me was, and I got Rich, the evil golfer, with me. And so I'm thinking, what is Rich thinking? Like, Rich is sitting on the floor. We're eating off of a metal plate or a leaf plate. And, the monks are sitting down eating across from us. We're eating with our hands, right? Because you eat with your right hand. You don't use a fork and knife. And I was just, my brain was like, goes right to, what is Rich thinking? But in my brain, I'm also thinking, this is so nice and simple. I remember living in ashram, sitting on the floor, eating with everybody, sort of like a family, eating this fresh homemade food. It was like the simplest, most peaceful time of my existence. I got back from that and I looked at Maharaj. I said, I want to be a monk again. I was like, I want to live in an ashram, but it's like, I'm too old now. He goes, no, you're not. You can do it. You could just move in here with me.
That's right.
He was like dead serious. Go around Govardhan every day.
You could.
Anyway, it's an option.
All right. Shall we read Bhagavatam with what time we have left?
Yes. Sorry.
It's 10 minutes
for all
left.
that swirling around.
It's only 10 minutes left.
Text 45.
Text 45.
The form of the Lord is described herein. The Lord's face is perpetually very beautiful and pleasing in attitude. Mm-hmm. The Lord has a good attitude, Kaustubha.
He's got a really good attitude.
He's got a great attitude. He's not mopey. The Lord's not mopey. Write that down, Mara.
Yeah,
to the devotees who see him, he appears never to be displeased, and he is always prepared to award benedictions to them. His eyes, his nicely decorated eyebrows, his raised nose, and his broad forehead are all very, very beautiful. He is more beautiful than all the demigods.
Okay.
Right? And they're very beautiful.
We're going to hear, I don't know how many verses this description is going to go. It's quite a few, maybe 10 or something. But where does it start? It starts with this idea of his attitude, right? Because again, what's he describing here? He's not describing like some divine light that you need to connect with, right?
He's a face.
It's a
There's a
person,
face
yeah.
on that light.
Yeah.
God is light. According to the Vedas, God is light, but there's a face behind that shine.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I like that, Raghunath. That's like
There's a face behind the
Upanishad,
shine.
right? Where the prayer is there in the Upanishads. Dear Lord, please remove the effulgence so that I can see your face, right?
Yeah. It's
And
like
so-
you hear a sound of a gong. Oh, okay. Well, where's the sound coming from? It's coming from the actual gong. It's not just something you can't.
right. Okay. There's a source.
You
to
like
the
that
light.
gong analogy? There's a source to
Yeah.
the sound.
Yeah. If you hear a gong sound, it means there's a gong somewhere, right?
Yeah,
If you
there's
see
a
there's
light,
source
right?
to
If there's
that.
light in the room, there's a light bulb. Duh. Duh. That's
So-
how I would debate. That's how I would debate a scholar.
Duh.
There's a light bulb. Duh.
The source to the light. And so the form of Krishna, the form of Lord is that source. But there's that fear, there's that tension, right? When you think about it, Raghunath, you take Vyasadeva, right? He was like, we're talking about these sages that were living out there in the forest in their little hermitage, and he was the ultimate sage, right?
Yeah.
He was super incredibly realized, so much so that he provided, it said that among the sages, all the sages respect Vyasadeva, right? Because he's the one that provided all the Vedas, provided all the Vedic texts, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, all the Puranas. He's incredibly deeply realized, right? I completely forgot my point now. Why was I talking about Vyasadeva?
I don't know, but I like it.
Okay.
It's talking about sages,
Yeah.
great sages, renunciation.
Renunciation, living in the
He isn't.
hermitage.
He's still alive, by the way.
Oh, I completely forgot my point. Anyway.
Face behind the light. Face behind
Face
the light.
behind the light. Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you, Mariji.
Mara's
Thank
good.
you.
She's
So my point is this. He wrote this incredibly huge body of literature. And he concludes it by showing this face, right? By showing Krishna, what he looks like, how he behaves, the love that he has for his devotees, and the love the devotees have for him. That's the conclusion of it all. But he provided so much other literature that doesn't go directly there because he knows we've got hang-ups, right? We got hang-ups about people. We got hang-ups about hierarchies. We got hang-ups about the idea of surrender. We're afraid to love, It's like we've got hang-ups. So he's provided so much literature where like you can advance spiritually and move towards quote unquote the light or something like that. But now we're hearing about the face, the person. And so Narada, he gets it too, right? And when Narada speaks about the Lord, the first thing he's saying about him is he's got this very beautiful face. It's got a very pleasing attitude. He seems to be never displeased.
never.
He's not like, because I was afraid as soon as I see him, he's going to be judging me. Right?
He's gonna be judging me. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Sit up straighter.
Straight
It's
up.
like a yoga teacher that criticizes your back bend, or you're standing up wrong. Drop your shoulders. Pull your
like a
head
drill
back.
sergeant or something like that. No,
Yeah.
the very first thing that we hear, and we're going to hear about this throughout this, we're going to hear about his beauty for sure. But right off the bat, we're hearing about his attitude, that he's happy. And he never appears to be displeased. He's never grumpy. What to speak of angry, He's always satisfied, and he's feeling. It said he's always prepared to award benedictions. He just wants to give.
He wants to give.
He wants to give,
He's more eager to take care of us than we are to take care of him.
or to
right?
be
Or
cared
just-
by him. Yeah.
To be cared by. Yeah. He's very eager. Okay.
Okay.
Narada continued. The Lord's form is always youthful. Every limb and right, because that's not how I pictured God. When I was young, God was elderly.
Right.
What did you
Well,
picture God as something?
I don't know. I honestly don't even remember if I was even picturing God, but like you see like different like Christian tracks and so on. Something it's not, or even you go to the Sistine Chapel and all that. You see God as an old man with a beard and all that.
Yeah.
But you see, this is in this tradition. There was a lot of philosophy behind it that helps you understand that. Like for instance, the world that we're living in is a material world. Is not the kingdom of God, right? And if you wanted to put it in a kind of like a Judeo-Christian kind of language.
Right.
we're in the prison, or like we're in the virtual reality. We're in the place where the reality is, and only within the realm that we're in is the element of time effect. Time is the force of time is put into this realm for a particular purpose. It's for the rectification of the people that aren't clued in, that aren't connected, right? And so why would and that force of time, it's the force that makes everything age, makes everything change, makes ultimately everything deteriorate and ultimately destroyed. God is beyond that. Time is his own energy that he's beyond. So why would he appear old, right? He's going to just appear in full beauty, in the most, full-on beautiful form, and that form's never going to deteriorate. So the Lord's form is always youthful. That's where it starts.
All right, let's keep going with that then. Every limb and every part of his body is properly formed, right?
No
like I've got one weird thumbnail. I've noticed that recently. Like one is a completely different shape. You see that, Mara? One is completely different shape of the other. It's driving me insane.
He's not like that.
God's not like that. Everything is perfectly formed.
You know who we should have on our show one
Mystery.
day?
Who?
What's that devotee's name? I'm trying to remember.
Speaking about weird thumbs, who?
Well, no, he's an artist. I think he's the son. I think his father's name is Dharmaraj, but he's an art. He's got several brothers, and he draws, like he went and learned like the
Vastu.
Vastu
Shilpa
and
Shastra.
Shilpa Shastra. Like, there's a connection between the bodily form and the temples and architecture. In the Vedic tradition, right? And so
you want to check out something good? Google image search Shilpa Shastra artwork. Shilpa, Shilpa
Shastra artwork.
Shilpa Shastra SASTRA. Shilpa Shastra artwork. You'll get some cool stuff. Temple. What do you call them? Temple architecture? Not temple architecture. The whole temple grounds, the whole temple buildings and places shaped like Lord Vishnu, but laying down. Really cool stuff.
Yeah.
You're Googling that right now. I can tell by your eyes. You're either looking at my soul or you're Googling something.
No, I'm looking at your soul. And I got a few things to share with you. No, I was looking for this devotee, and it's killing me that I'm forgetting his name right now. It's just such a talent. So he went and he learned that Shilpa art style, how to draw the forms of the devas, how to draw the forms of Lord Vishnu, and so on. And of course, maybe like the primary quality that you see is symmetry, right? It's like all perfectly symmetrical. The face, the eyes, and all the limbs and so on. But we should interview him someday. Learn more about that. But in any case,
I think someone just called you out on the message board. It's a squirrel, Kaustubha. They called you the squirrel.
Well, it's a squirrel totally related to what we're talking about. We're talking about the Lord's form and how every limb is perfectly formed. So
we need a squirrel mooger, Karuna. Give us a squirrel mooger.
His name is Dhridadas. That's right.
Dhridadas.
DRDHA. I think Drida.
Are you still still
here you go.
This?
No. This is not a squirrel. This is right on to the topic. If you go to Drida, DRDHA _art on Instagram, you'll see some of his stuff. I'm seeing it right now, Raghunath. It's so beautiful. There's a form of Lord Vishnu right there. Really
okay.
Nice.
All right, squirrel.
My squirrels are on this.
You're talking about things that we can't see. It's a podcast. No one can see this.
Well, I just pointed people in the right direction, Bubba.
Okay.
But,
I'm going to follow them.
We're going to pick up here tomorrow.
Right. We got to finish this. We got to finish this verse, Prabhu.
All right, finish it up.
Every limb and every part of his body is properly formed, free from defect. His eyes and lips are pinkish like the rising sun, and he is always prepared to give shelter to the surrendered soul. And anyone so fortunate as to look upon him feels all satisfaction. The Lord is always worthy to be the master of the surrendered soul, for he is the ocean of mercy.
I love it. We got to start with this verse tomorrow. It's a beautiful verse.
It's a beautiful verse. Okay.
Right.
Oh, we have to announce Italy before we start. I'm getting urgent messages. We are having a Wisdom of the Sages Italy retreat. It's at an ashram in Tuscany. It's wonderful. We did it last year. Everyone lost their material mind. If you're interested, please email Vivi, who's doing registration at
WOTS Italy at gmail.com. You can also go to Super Soul.
No.
Go to wisdomofthesages.com for info. It's
Yeah.
listed there on our website.
Okay.
under events.
Right.
All right, takeaways, Mara. What can we walk away from this class today and bring with us and help us through the course of a day?
All right. Surround yourself with people that want to upgrade their inner engineering.
Stolen from Sadhguru. Anybody pick
Inner
up on
engineering,
that?
that's a fact. Yeah, that's stolen from Sadhguru.
There's a sweetness in Bhakti melancholy.
Yeah.
There is. Yeah.
The material world is designed to stunt the growth of our Bhakti seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Get on your A game here and chant. Flip the American dream. You don't like that one?
It's all right.
Flip the American dream. Oh, I like that. Flip the American dream. That's a
Flip
t-shirt.
the American dream.
Yeah.
There's nothing of this material world that will satisfy my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
There's a face behind.
That's a t-shirt. I'd wear that t-shirt.
Yeah.
There's nothing of this material world that'll satisfy my heart.
I like that. Yeah.
There's a face behind the shine.
Oh,
There's a-
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a face behind the glow, behind the light,
effulgence.
behind the effulgence, behind the light.
We've
Be-
got
There's a
hang-ups.
gong behind the gong sound.
Yes.
The material world is the ultimate costume party.
Yeah.
And the Lord isn't mopey
Never.
I'm going to wear
Grumpy.
that shirt.
or grumpy.
Or sleepy.
Yeah.
Or, or any of the seven dwarfs.
It's not a dwarf.
The Lord is a dwarf sometimes.
Oh, that's true. He does become a dwarf.
Thanks everybody for joining us. We are going, there's a 9-hour yugya going on by the
Really?
grandson of Srila Prabhupada's first disciple.
Oh, wow.
And he's the most
9-hour
powerful
yugya
tantric
from-
in this part of the north of the east of the Mississippi.
Right.
And he is about to do a 9-hour. It's going to start at 9 o'clock and it's going to 5 in the morning, all for the
Brother?
benefit of the Ukrainians who
Oh,
are going
good.
through so much suffering right now.
We're 9-hour yugya from Kanpur.
If you want to join us here on Zoom, do it. It's especially going to be fun while we're in India and Nepal. Email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Follow our adventures and follow me on Instagram, Raghunath Yogi.
Hey, you see
That's
this?
it, Raghunath Yogi.
Mom and Karuna may come to Italy.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Bring the baby. Bring the little
Bring the
baby, too.
Bring the baby too.
Bring the baby.